Hi all, in the previous video we understood that Aslesha energy makes a person to become an exploiter and an emotional game player. So the other people can really understand the Aslesha energy person very easily because the exploiting energy they are going to apply on the others is very clearly understandable. So that is one thing. So the whole thing is something like deceiving others and getting deceived by others is the whole picture of life, and it is in the lowest scenario, in the lowest quality of Aslesha you can find this kind of energy. But in the highest quality you can see Aslesha energy people renouncing the world and becoming the yogis and you know and also the saints, provided they have to come out, they have to come out this particular energy, the selfish energy. If they right come out this particular selfish energy, then only they can uh, be saints or yogis. And they are a bit having miserliness in the financial efforts, and they are very they have a lot of interest in food, especially the non-vegetarian food. They feel these bars, restaurants, hotels, all of them as their homes because they love food a lot. So that is one thing we understood. And in the business activities also, Aslesha energy people don't want a straightforward method. They want this kind of cheating or deception. If these things are involved, they like it a lot, right? So another thing we want to say, if one thinks of the characteristics of cats and snakes, it's not difficult to sum upon Aslesha personality, because the cunningness and the cold-bloodedness, these kind of traits amongst cats and snakes you can clearly observe. So the only way Aslesha natives can use their negative traits in a positive manner is by aligning themselves with universal will. So that is one thing, and they have to come out of the selfishness they get, or the exploiting nature, or whatever the negative traits they have. I am mainly speaking about the negative energy of Aslesha Nakshatra. So the key for utilizing Aslesha in a positive way is to overcome the selfishness. That is the most important thing we discussed. And having done that, suspicion will turn into discretion, you can say, and willingness, or whatever the kind of willingness they have, that will turn into wisdom for them, and they will become very great gurus, very great saints also. So they are very good at observing the things. They can understand others, and thereby they can play with the others emotionally. So Aslesha is the first step on the path of spiritual awakening you can always consider. So the underbelly of nature is encountered here, the underbelly nature, right? So one has to face all the dark demons of the inner psyche in order to come out of this particular shining, and then they can purify it thereby. So they have to come out of that zone, the selfish zone. So Aslesha's natural tendency to look under the surface has to be utilized for understanding the hidden elements of nature's functionings, and they are also very good detectives because they can understand underbelly very much, means under the surface activities they can track better. They are by birth they are detectives, you can say, and they have good amount of sexual energy also. It's a good thing for them. So Aslesha is considered to be an active nakshatra, we understood, because even they are sitting, something would be running in their mind. They are always active, they're always active, and that is one thing we understood. It's a female nakshatra also. So since the ancient Vedic seers have made the classification without elucidating a reason, we have to conclude that the intuitive, the perceptiveness, the deceptive qualities, right, that we ascribe, means that are ascribed to Aslesha, relate more to the female of the species rather than the male. That's why Aslesha is treated as a female nakshatra. One can notice that even male natives under the prominent influence of Aslesha have a feminine way about them, of course, but in the feminine energy you can find, in the females you can find this kind of energy more. And if you see the body parts associated with Aslesha Nakshatra, the bone joints like elbows, the knuckles, kneecaps, the nails, and the ears are the body parts related to this particular nakshatra. So it is in the Ayurveda also, you can say it is a kapha related nakshatra, watery related nakshatra. This is due to its relationship with the sign Cancer. Cancer is a water sign. Most serpent deities are shown as having kapha characteristics. If you understand, kapha characteristics are something like a stagnation, laziness, indulgence, those things. So it is related to the northwest direction, to the north direction generally, right? We'll talk about direction more in some other video, because it is also important, because if your Aslesha Nakshatra is afflicted, it's better you don't travel in that direction when on the day of Aslesha Nakshatra. So let us say you have Aslesha Nakshatra having a malefic Jupiter, let us say. Now on a particular day, Aslesha Nakshatra is operating. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by Aslesha Nakshatra is operating? When moon is in Aslesha Nakshatra, you say that particular day, on that particular day, Aslesha Nakshatra is operating. But if you observe in your horoscope, a malefic Jupiter, a functionally malefic Jupiter is in Aslesha, let us say, right? So for example, for Capricorn ascendant, Jupiter is a functionally malefic planet, and that functionally malefic planet, if it is placed in the Aslesha Nakshatra, then on the day of Aslesha Nakshatra, better you do not travel in the northwest to the northwest direction or north direction. Better you don't travel. That is the only thing. That is the only idea here. Let's try to talk about different padas of Aslesha Nakshatra and what kind of characteristics it can give. So 16.40 degrees to 20 degrees of Cancer is the first quarter of Aslesha Nakshatra. So in this first pada, it has the ability to put in the most hard work. It's a hard working element is coming here. Aslesha first pada. It has a lot to do with dealing with enmity, diseases, all the 6 house affairs. You can clearly understand enemies, diseases, debts. So hard work also involved here in the Aslesha first pada. And the Aslesha second pada, it's of course 20 degrees to 23.20 degrees of Cancer. So this pada is mostly involved in dealing with the people. It is highly ambitious pada, which is usually labeled to use all of Aslesha's negative traits like trickery and deceit to get what it wants. To get their things done, they use generally courtesy as a key to get the things done, and of course once the things are done, they are very much ruthless, right? So an inability to let go of possessions is another unique aspect of this pada. So they cannot go out of this particular, they feel very much uncomfortable to leave this particular material desires. It's very much difficult for Aslesha Nakshatra second pada people to come out of all the selfishness and this trickery and finally achieve some kind of sainthood or whatever. It's very difficult for them. They are always into this material world, and they always they enjoy that tricking the people and all the stuff. So it's being a Gandamula pada. Aslesha second pada is Gandamula pada, and this pada is considered to be bad for finances. So for financial growth, they always try to, maybe they will try to do the trickery and all the deceit, everything. The third pada of Aslesha is in 23.20 degrees to 26.40 degree Cancer. So secrecy is the key word in the Aslesha third pada. It, however, is most closely related to the occult side of Aslesha, because the secretiveness and the occult sciences are very much related, the hidden areas. So this pada usually goes to unusual lengths, and takes highly inventive approaches to scheming and plotting, strategically, getting the things whatever they want to, achieve. So planets placed here adversely affects mother's well-being also. So Aslesha third pada is not, it's not a good thing for the natives mothers. So, and if you see the fourth pada, 26.40 degrees to 30 degree Cancer falls in this particular fourth pada. So this is the pada relating to all kinds of illusions. So the moral struggle is at its peak here. This is the place where the serpent of Aslesha finally gets slain, and people under the strong influence of this pada are more likely to get tricked by others. So instead of tricking others, these people are going to be tricked by others rather than deceiving, others. So this is the one important thing they have to understand. Even though they have this kind of deceiving qualities, finally they will get cheated. That is the problem for Aslesha fourth pada people. So such natives are always putting up fronts and hardly ever show their true nature. So planets placed here adversely affect the father's well-being, generally we say. So father's well-being and mother's well-being, of course these are the general predictions. Aslesha third is not good for mother, and Aslesha 4 is not good for father. So these kind of things are very, it's something like the generic predictions. You need to check other strengths also, right? So even if let us say a prominent planet is in Aslesha, but other planets are supporting something good, these Aslesha people can do very well in their life. So overall horoscope is to be checked, but these are the points we can get from our saints. And if you see the professions here, mainly the serpent energy is involved. Any kind of drug related means any kind of poison related, you can say. Even the petrol under the surface industries are also good for them, like petroleum industry, chemical engineering. Some they are related to kind of drugs and cigarettes, this kind of activities also. So cigarette industry is good for them. Legal and illegal drug dealers, you can see them here. So it's not a good idea. So it just drugs and all, if the law of the land is not permitting that, it's not at all a good idea. They will be in troubles. All self-serving professions like present day politicians, you can say, behind the scenes manipulation is the main key here. Wherever behind the scenes manipulation is coming into the picture, then you will understand the Aslesha energy. There they can find some professions, means they are comfortable there. They, by their nature, they are very much this plotting and using the strategies to play some emotional game. So this kind of things, this energy, Aslesha energy, is very much comfortable here. So psychologists, even you can say thieves, even the pro pornography industry, of course here. So in some of the countries it is completely banned, so better you need to check the law of the land, and it's not at all a good idea. So even snake related jobs, any kind of, right? So snake charmers or whatever. So professions involving something like dealing with reptiles, any kind of reptile, you can say, not only snakes. So allopathic doctors, right? So even the surgeons, a pet snake owners or pet cat owners. Cat and snake defines this kind of energy. Cat and snake define this energy. Secret service agents, the detectives, also very good here. The spies, lawyers, pawn brokers, physical yoga teachers, tantrics are very good here. Usually the beginner types, because Uttara Bhadrapada represents the extraordinary type of this tantrics, but a minimal type of tantrics you can find in Aslesha. The hypnotists, you can say, the psychologists, psychiatrists, this kind of people you can see here. False gurus or cult leaders, you can find them also. The baseball players also you can find in Aslesha Nakshatra. Mainly, see the kind of thinking they generally have is by doing something false. By doing some false advertisement, they can make the people believe it, right? So we'll come to that in a moment. So all places where snakes and reptiles are involved, you can see this Aslesha energy. A secret service institutions, you can find it. Even hospitals you can find, law firms, all factories dealing with poisonous chemical things, drug stores, uh, all these things. All the even something like religious institutions also can find such energy, because there you will see something related to Kundalini awakening and all stuff, right? So you can find all these places are actually even the illegal prostitution, because that is also hidden, right? Hidden energies, because they can see under the surface, under their observation capacity, the perceiving capacity is at peaks. So this kind of places involve generally the Aslesha energy only, and it is supposed to be a Sattvic Nakshatra. The classification might really surprise you, but the intention of our ancient seers can be understood in this way. Like Aslesha relates directly to the Kundalini Shakti, right? That is most important thing. Of course, even it is a beginner level, but it is very much involved with the Kundalini Shakti, so which encodes all our life, all our previous life experiences also, right? So because the Kundalini Shakti is our mother and our individual blueprint, and so cannot be regarded as anything but purely sattvic only. That's why Vedic seers, the ancient seers, they try to interpret this particular nakshatra as a sattvic nakshatra. It belongs to the water planet. You can see its involvement in the Cancer. So there's not much to explain here, and this particular, because we already discussed the kapha element involved here, a watery element, right? So the kapha energy, all kapha related problems, if Aslesha is afflicted or having some bad energy, the person may have kapha related problems. Well, it is considered as a Rakshasa nakshatra also. Even though it is sattvic, it is a Rakshasa, it has some demonic nature also. This comes, it's very easy to identify that. And one more thing is, it is in this particular hydra, right? It's in the sky. You can see that in the abode of the celestial demonic creatures. In the sky you can find the shape also like some celestial demonic creature. So Aslesha, as we have seen already, can be quite cruel and wicked, and very rarely functions from unselfish perspective. It's very much selfish, especially the negative qualities, negative Aslesha energy we can understand here. Even in the sky, the shape nearer by this Aslesha, it's Hydra, the whole area is called as Hydra, and there you can find the celestial creatures, the demonic creatures kind of shapes you can find here, right? The poisonous reptiles energy you can feel there. So it's a downward nakshatra, means it always looks downward in the sense it can look very much downward, it can look very much deeply into the subject. It can understand what is hidden under the surface, means what is hidden in the human's mind, in the other person's emotions, what he is really trying to say. They can perceive it better. So it is common knowledge that snakes don't live above the ground. You can see that they don't live above the ground. They always, Aslesha stands for, it is interested in underground related things. That's why in the professions also we try to say some petroleum and some kind of related to the underground, under the surface related professions only we try to explain them. Even the Kundalini Shakti is also underlying only, right? So they always interested in this kind of underlying things. So planets placed in Aslesha often feel contained, or you can say often have to work in behind the scenes, right? The energy works behind the scenes. Whatever energy you have, whether you have Jupiter energy in Aslesha or Venus energy or whichever planet's energy you have in Aslesha, that energy works behind the scenes. So it is a hard, sharp and dreadful nakshatra, you can totally say. This comes as no surprise considering the immensity of its negative potential. So this negative potential is also very much required, because without negative potential you cannot see. After Aslesha Nakshatra you have Magha Nakshatra. Magha Nakshatra is a kingly energy nakshatra. So after Aslesha only you can get this. Means after tackling this kind of negative energy only you can get something great. That is the representation here. We will come to know that one also, this particular representation. So you can understand all types of activities requiring harsh measures like administering poisons, filing lawsuits, or it's very good for scheming also, plotting, strategy, you know something like having strategies and all the things. In these initiations you can always use the Aslesha day. When moon is in Aslesha, you can always start this kind of activities. Even it's good for sexual activity, good for all low risk short term activities, good for Kundalini yoga, and good for starting any kind of meditation, any kind of Kundalini awakening, the tantric processes. For all of them it is this particular day is means the day on which moon is operating. Moon is in Aslesha Nakshatra. That particular day is very much good for all these activities. So it's generally unfavorable for all types of beginnings and auspicious activities. This is a good time to it's good that you are not going to start any auspicious activity on the day of Aslesha. So especially unfavorable for doing business. It's very much important. You should not start your business on the day of Aslesha. So bad for borrowing or lending money also. On the day of Aslesha, never try to borrow or lend money from anybody. If you observe, moon and Mercury energy is clearly involved here. By using Mercury, you are trying to cheat the moon. It's something like by using your trickery, that is Mercury, you are trying to exploit the moon. Moon is public, right? So that's why here moon and Mercury are the two planets connected with this nakshatra. Mercury being the main planetary ruler, of course. Mercury is the lord of this particular nakshatra, and moon's energy is present because Aslesha is in Cancer, which is Cancer lord is of course moon. So nakshatra lord is Mercury and sign lord is moon. So both Mercury and moon's energy are hidden here clearly, because by using Mercury you are exploiting moon. So mostly the negative mercurial traits like deception, cheating and all this stuff are coming here. So those are only highlighted in this particular nakshatra. So Aslesha uses Mercury's this particular perceptiveness, calculating ability, and and for the selfish requirements it uses that kind of Mercury energy, and finally exploit moon. So this is obviously the case in the present day also. In the present day you can observe the politicians, they are trying to use Mercury and cheat the moon. Something like Mercury is your news channels, you can say, all the communication related things you can see them with the Mercury energy, and moon is us, actually the public. So they are trying to use Mercury to cheat us, right? So moon also represents the mind, you can clearly understand here. So the actual functioning of Mercury here is to control the mind, that is the moon. By using Mercury they are controlling your mind, right? It's a very critical process, you can understand. So Aslesha is supposed to be the place where intellect develops itself to control and direct the subconsciousness and also the instinctual workings of the mind. You can It's a very great energy also. Just see, you may need to if you don't have any Aslesha energy, let us say, and if you want to get that Aslesha energy, how much training is needed for you? You need to understand the other people, you need to observe the people, observe and understand their emotions, and finally you need to plan a strategy to trap them or to cunningly exploit them. How much training you need if you don't have Aslesha energy? And they are getting it very easily. It's a very tricky thing, right? It needs high intelligence basically. And this kind of so Mercury's ability to direct moon is used for deceiving the masses, the public, that is moon, through the media, that is Mercury. So this negative usage of mercurial energy makes this one of the most dangerous nakshatras in the Kali Yuga. This is especially evident when seen in light of the fact that Mercury is representative of one of the preserving forces in the nature. Better this Aslesha energy is utilized to understand the nature better instead of understanding the people and then exploit them. Better this energy can be utilized to understand the functioning of the nature well. As a result, you can clearly understand the society or civilization and the natural world are thrown completely out of balance if you are really using this energy very negatively. So Aslesha is the battleground where the war between intellect and emotions, consciousness and subconsciousness, reasonability, all these things are taking place. They're all playing a role here, right? The emotional gaming is one of the key factors here. So the turbulent energies you can really understand here are susceptible to taking these people into wrong path. So the kind of turbulences they have in their mind, the kind of activities that are going on in their mind, better they try to control it. They have to observe if this kind of bad energies are leading them to a negative path. Moon and Mercury conjunction in a horoscope gives similar results to Aslesha, because Moon Mercury conjunction is something like utilizing Mercury energy to control Moon or to control the mind. Ketu is supposed to give good results in Aslesha when aspected by Jupiter, because Ketu is spiritual, and when Ketu is in Aslesha, it's very much ensured that they go to spiritualism very early in their lifetime, and even Jupiter is also aspecting it. Then obviously Jupiter is also religious planet, then it is very good for the spiritual practice. No other planet can be said to function well in this nakshatra. A well placed Mercury, however, can make the native very manipulative businessman, because Mercury is related to business. So Mercury in Aslesha is good for doing business. So that is one thing we can understand. And the sexual animal, if you talk about for Aslesha, it is cat. Cats are quite intensely sexual animals, you can understand. One can easily see that even basic keywords for Aslesha, we used the coiling and whatever, these are all the Kundalini, awakening, whatever, these are all related to sexual union also. So in the present day and age, this nakshatra can be said to responsible for most of the sexual exploitation also. So they have to be very careful if anybody have a negative Aslesha energy. And with this particular nakshatra, sexual compatibility, if you observe, Punarvasu would be having some good sexual compatibility. So this particular nakshatra is connected to the Hydra, the most feared serpent in the night sky. You can see the Hydra, right? It looks like a sky only. So in the Greek mythology also, Hydra is supposed to be this many headed, so many headed means some number of heads, a serpent having more number of heads. In Greek mythology also they looked at Hydra that way only. So it is interesting to understand that the royal nakshatra, that is the Magha, right, is a royal nakshatra because it is having kingly energy. Just it is right next to this particular serpent energy, the Aslesha energy. So it's something like, they I think they were trying to say, means our ancient Vedic seers were trying to say that the crown and other authority, that is this particular Magha Nakshatra energy, right, is only can be achieved, it can only be achieved after the dark serpent is overcome. If your energy, if you come out of this particular this particular Aslesha energy we have in us, if we come out of that, then only the crown and authority can be achieved, right? So maybe that would be the ideology of our Vedic seers. It's very interesting to see this particular fact, means Magha coming after us Aslesha this way. The lower nature has to be won over before we can tune into our higher nature. The lower nature is something like getting involved into material desires more, and then even tricking and exploiting others, getting our things done is some kind of lower nature, and higher nature is having some kind of Magha related energy. Then clearly by overcoming the lower nature only you can get the higher nature. So Aslesha is really the crucial focal point here, because it is representing a kind of battle also between good and bad. So if you overcome bad, you will achieve something good, something like the authority or crown you will achieve. That is the Magha energy you can achieve. So it is also the last among the 9 nakshatras: Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, Mrigashira, Arudra, Punarvasu, Pushyami, Aslesha. These are the 9 nakshatras you have. It's one set of 9 nakshatras. In this 9th nakshatra set, Aslesha is the is the 9th one. You can in the first cycle of nakshatras, 3 cycles of nakshatras. In every cycle you have 9 nakshatras, because the planetary rulers repeat, because for Ashwini is it is Ketu, and for Bharani it is Venus, Kritika is Sun, and Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini is Moon, and Mrigasira is Mars, Ardra is Rahu, Punarvasu Jupiter, Pushyami is Saturn, and Aslesha is Mercury. So this cycle repeats again from Magha. It is Magha is Ketu, then Magha to Chesta you have Mercury again. So Ketu to Mercury it repeats, right? So Magha, Pura Falguni, Uttara Falguni, and then Hasta, Chitra, Swati, Vishakha, Anuradha, Jyeshtha. The 9 planets repeat again. Those planets are something like Ketu, Venus, Moon, Ketu, Venus, Sun, and then Moon, and then Mars, Rahu, Jupiter, Saturn, Mercury. This is the order. Even you can see this order in the Vimshottari Dasha system also, right? The same order repeats again from Mula. So Mula, Purvashadha, Uttarashadha, means for Mula it is Ketu, for Purvashadha Venus, for Uttarashadha it is Sun, and then for Shravana it is Moon, for Dhanistha it is Mars, and again for Pura Bhadrapada it is Jupiter, Uttara Bhadrapada is Saturn, and finally for Revati again Mercury is coming into the picture. So this cycle repeats. So that's why in the first cycle of nakshatras, the 9 nakshatras, Aslesha is the last nakshatra, I can say, right, in the first cycle. So Aslesha relates directly to the Kundalini Shakti we talked about. Kundalini is it's a serpent shaped, basically. It's a 2.5 coil, you can understand, right? 2.5 a coil of that astral energy. You can feel the Kundalini energy, you can see it as. So which lies in the Muladhara Chakra. You have that the root center, the Muladhara Chakra in the down, and at the base of your spine you can clearly find this particular Muladhara Chakra, right? So it's a Kundalini is a serpent shaped energy. It's a 2.5 coil, you can see in the Aslesha, it is lying here in the Muladhara Chakra. Muladhara Chakra lies just as the base of your spine. It is a function of Aslesha to arouse and activate this energy. Aslesha energy is very much required for this. So that's why if you want to get liberation, or if you want to get activate that Kundalini Shakti, this Aslesha energy is very much important. See, that's why if they come out of that selfishness, that's it, they can very much easily become yogis, they can easily become the saints. That's one of the wonderful qualities of Aslesha energy. So they have that energy. If any planet is sitting in Aslesha, then they can try on that, right? They can try on that very clearly. But better if Ketu sits and Jupiter aspects. When Mercury sits, of course they can become a tricky businessman and get a lot of money. But other planets don't do very well in this particular Aslesha Nakshatra. So most of Aslesha's energy, the field, if you observe, and the scope of activity lies this particular, the root center, the Muladhara Chakra is the base for this particular, it is the energy. If you want to feel the Aslesha energy in the Kundalini, that is Muladhara Chakra. So the arousal of the Kundalini is the first step on the way to enlightenment. That is very much important. So this, if you want to, so the point here is Aslesha is a point where a conscious choice is made. Consciously, if you try to activate that Muladhara Chakra, that is where your spiritual enlightenment is going to be started. So this choice, of course, relates to letting go out of our the materialistic nature. We have to come out of that materialistic nature so that we can begin our journey on the path of wisdom and enlightenment. That is very important. So the journey of Kundalini, which begins in Aslesha, of course you can see it is going to be very fruitful in the nakshatra of Uttara Bhadrapada, right? So this nakshatra, this particular Aslesha nakshatra, is mainly related to the sage Vasishtha, one of the 7 celestial sages looking after the affairs of our galaxy. That is the olden and golden belief that we had in our Vedic culture. The 7 celestial sages only looking after the affairs of our galaxy. That is a fundamental thing. So the name of this sage, if you translate that Vasishtha, it's nothing but possessor of wealth. So according to Vedic text, most of the serpent deities are said to guard treasure. So that is where the serpent energy, this particular connection is coming here. That's why Vasishtha has become the symbolism of this one. Means symbolism in the sense it is related actually. Symbolism is of course the Kundalini only, the 2.5 coil serpent only. So according to ancient Vedic mythology, most of the celestial serpent deities are shown as something like they are very much wealthy. Even Nagas you can find as a security for a lot of treasure you can find. Alright. So wealth and Nagas are very much related. Nagas is related to wealth. So this is about this particular, if you want to know about this particular Aslesha people, then the famous people are Indira Gandhi ji. She has this ascendant rising. Her ascendant is rising in Aslesha Nakshatra. And another great personality is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi has his moon in Aslesha Nakshatra, right? So these are the prominent personalities of Aslesha Nakshatra. So if you want to explore more and more, then we will try to explore this one in our upcoming video, that is part 3 also, right? But this 2 videos consisting of lot of information about Aslesha. So thanks for watching this video.